Hello, I'm Jason Solomons, and welcome to another wonderful edition of Seen Any Good Films Lately. This is the film podcast for movie recommendations past and present, as each week a top guest shares their movie memories with us as I take them through the famous SAGFL questions, reminding us why we all love cinema.
I just adore Fred Astaire. Anything in Top Hat.
My guest this week is Oscar winner Sir Christopher Hampton, fresh from winning Best Adapted Screenplay at the Oscars and BAFTAs for his work on The Father, starring Anthony Hopkins and Olivia Colman. Christopher takes us through his film life, from writing Dangerous Liaisons and Atonement to watching his first film in a tent in the desert. It's fascinating, informative, entertaining stuff, as always, and we'll get right into it after I tell you if I've seen any good films lately. Restored to a bright sheen and released for the first time in years, Mandabi is a masterpiece of world cinema, and I absolutely loved it. I'd never seen it before, but it's by the father of African cinema, Ousmane Sembène, from Senegal, and set in 1968. It's about a pompous peasant man in a poor village who receives a letter from the postman informing him it's a money order, a Mandabi, from his nephew in Paris to the tune of 25,000 francs. All this guy, Ibrahim Dieng is his name, all he's got to do is go to the post office and cash it in.
Ibrahima Dieng moom tëddee xabaar bu neex laa indaloon benn mandat ñaar yëpp Paris lañ jógee.
mandat. dama ñëwoon si la ndax dama am benn mandat poste boobu ma war a touché.
demal nga wuti carte d'identité.
ah. demal mairie wuti sa kayit.
Well, that's easier said than done in post-colonial Dakar, and poor Dieng is pushed from pillar to post office and back again. He needs birth certificates and all sorts of ID and photos that he doesn't have, and he's being taxed for it each time. 300 francs here, 300 francs there. Meanwhile, his two wives, two of them, back at home, are being pressed for cash and taking out credit at the local shop for bags of rice, and various characters keep popping up and demanding money or handouts. And when Ibrahim cashes his Mandabi, they say, of course, we will pay you. I adored this film. The colours, the clothes, the surreal yet debilitating bureaucratic nightmares, the little details of everyday life that build up to tell the story and the character. It's so skillful and economical and so resonant. It's got something of the fable about it, but I suppose that's more like the griot, the storytellers of Senegalese culture. Anyway, Mandabi. I order you to see it. Also high on the must-see list at the cinemas now is The Father. I know, I've been on about it for a while, but you haven't been able to see it. And all the time, Anthony Hopkins has been getting his Oscar for it, and my guest, Sir Christopher Hampton, along with his co-writer and the film's director, Florian Zeller, got their awards too for brilliantly adapting Florian's original stage play.
There you are.
What are you doing here?
What do you think?
Huh?
So what happened?
Nothing.
Oh, tell me.
I just did. Nothing happened.
Nothing happened.
Oh.
I've just had her on the phone.
So what does that prove?
You can't go on behaving like this.
It's my flat, isn't it? This is incredible. You burst in on me as if I have no idea who she is, this woman. I never asked her for anything.
She's here to help you.
Tell me do what? I don't need her. I don't need anyone.
Christopher is a veteran playwright, filmmaker and screenplay genius with film credits such as Carrington, which he directed himself, Dangerous Liaisons from his own stage play, Atonement for Joe Wright, The Quiet American, A Dangerous Method for David Cronenberg, and translations that range from Molière to Ibsen and Yasmina Reza. He's basically a main man on stage, screen and script. So I began by congratulating Sir Christopher Hampton on his wins and finally getting the film out of award ceremonies and into cinemas.
Thank you very much. Actually, a couple of weeks ago, I saw it on the big screen first time in the cinema this year, and it really was thrilling to see it.
Yeah, that was with me.
There.
That was us doing a Q&A at the French Institute. What perfect place to do it, because it has a sort of French feel to it. Obviously translated from Florian Zeller's original, but yeah, and yet it, you made it into English. You made it Anthony Hopkins. There's a real London feel to it as well. I don't know, is that because it's a very easily transposable story, or is that because you specified it into English?
Yeah, I think it is quite a universal story, but actually Florian has this thing about English actors. He's since we've started working together, he really likes working with English actors. So right from the start, his notion was to set the piece in London rather than in Paris, and sideways to that, he was sort of obsessed with getting Anthony Hopkins to be in it.
As I say, I've seen it several times now, and it just grabs you every time. Little different things grab you every time. Obviously, there's Anthony's performance, and seeing it on the big screen, you could sort of see every glint in his eye, every little twinkle, every little facial muscle that Anthony pulled. And the same with Olivia Colman as well, who I don't want to overlook her in this, but when you see the film again, you realise that her performance is equally as majestic as Anthony's, I think.
She's absolutely great in it, and really suffers on our behalf, really, in the film. And she's so moving and truthful in it. Of course, by the time we got to the actual nitty-gritty of casting her, The Favourite had come out, and so everybody knew who she was.
I think it's one of those things that The Favourites come out and you think, well, that's an amazing performance, an Oscar-winning performance, and yet and it's still the same actress, very much the same actress, but so far removed, and yet only a little bit different in terms of Olivia Colman and physicality, but such a far removed character. That's her real skill, it seems to me.
She's just has a sort of a completely unforced sense of authenticity, which is, so you completely believe her in whatever she does.
So you wrote Anthony Hopkins, Dan. You're thinking, all right, Anthony. Did you think of him when you're sitting there writing? I presume you.
I did.
I presume you've come to typing these days, Christopher.
No, I still write with the old fountain pen.
You do? I thought you'd given up.
First draft, yeah. But yes, no, I thought of him. His voice was very much in my head when I was writing his dialogue.
But he's got such a distinctive delivery. The way that he he can sort of speed up in the middle of a sentence and spit them out and kind of fire them. Did that help you with the musicality?
It did, actually. Yes, it did. And I'd worked with him twice before, a long time ago. The first screenplay of mine that got made was A Doll's House in 1973 that he was in, and then in the mid 80s I did a film called The Good Father.
Did he remember you from those, or?
Oh yeah. No, I think it might have got us, helped getting us through the door at the beginning.
Well, plus you've done this a bit before as well. Even if you're still in fountain pen, I can't believe you're still doing that. So why do you still use fountain pen?
I just like the rhythm, and I like it works at the right speed for me.
Wow. So are there a collection of Christopher Hampton all handwritten sort of first drafts?
Yeah,
all in pen?
Yeah, there's a couple of hundred notebooks somewhere. Yes.
Fantastic. Well, some of them, some will be not. I'm sure they're all precious, but some will be worth more than others in terms of like the first draft of Liaison, the first draft of The Father. These are Oscar-winning artifacts.
Yeah. I think what might be interesting for people is that the first draft of Liaison and of The Father are both pretty close to what we finished up with.
Which is, I mean, for Liaison, that kind of has a, it's such a writerly exercise in the first place. That would make sense that was written, like, letter by letter, quill by quill, on not on the back of a young woman, perhaps, but, that would suit. Have you seen any good films lately, Christopher Hampton? What have you been up to? What have you been watching?
Well, I did actually see a very interesting documentary yesterday called State Funeral, which is a compilation of stock footage, really, of the days around after Stalin's death and leading to his state funeral.
This is Sergei Loznitzer, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's presented without comment, really. But it's really fascinating to watch. And it's very interesting to me because I've written a screenplay based on Julian Barnes's novel about Shostakovich, The Noise of Time. And that particular day features quite heavily in the screenplay because when the whole of Russia was standing to attention, watching Stalin being carried away, Prokofiev had also inconveniently died at the very same moment. And they were trying to proceed with his funeral, counterflow to these vast crowds. So it's almost a sort of comic scene trying to bury poor Prokofiev in the middle of all this mayhem.
Because I mean, I feel the death of Stalin, the Mando Yanucci
Yes.
sort of farce around it.
Yeah.
Did he
Yeah.
did he get close to? Do we get close to any Loznitsa? Because I haven't seen State Funeral yet.
It's just fascinating because it goes to every corner of this vast, there's a long sequence when all the leaders of Iron Curtain countries arrive in the snow in Moscow. And finally, Harry Pollitt from the Communist Party of Great Britain steps rather sort of grandly off the plane, and so on. It just shows you without comment what happened on those days,
Amazing.
and then just says at the end, by the way, Stalin killed 36 million people, and 6 years later he was denounced, and then his body was taken out of this mausoleum. So it unleashes a lot of reflections. Really?
Yeah, I suppose on history and how we tell it and who tells it.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. If you have an escapist tendency, Christopher, what do you watch?
I watched a couple of films recently, both about children, really, I suppose, or people in an alien surrounding. One was Minari, which I absolutely loved. I thought it was a beautiful film.
Yeah, the Korean film, Korean American, yeah.
And the other film was actually a much chillier piece, which is called The Painted Bird. I don't know if you've seen that.
Oh yes, well that's a sort of Holocaust movie of some,
It is. Well, it's about a boy. You don't even know that it's at that period at first, because it could be, he's wandering through this blasted landscape on his own. He's somehow been abandoned. It's quite a long time since I saw it now, a few months, and I must say it sticks very hard in your mind.
It certainly does. I mean, those images that see it. The Son of Saul is probably about the closest I've seen in terms of the sort of the tableau that he goes through, and it does have a sort of Russian element to it as well. I was reminded, of those amazing films, and yet it's like nothing else really. Painted Bird. What was the first film you ever saw at the cinema?
Easter Parade.
Ooh. Lovely.
I was in a tent in Aden, where my father was working at the time, and I do remember it. I think I must have been 4, probably. I do sort of remember it. Those huge images. Everybody sitting on canvas chairs in the desert.
Right, in a tent. Why do you think that stuck with you? I mean, I saw it actually on a lockdown afternoon. It happened to be on, and I just fancied a matinee, and it just there it was. And my wife and I sat on the sofa and didn't move for the 2 hours of it. Completely enchanted by it.
It's a lovely film. I have fond but vague memories of it.
Well, a couple of swells isn't it? But just
that's right.
Walk down the avenue, beautiful. Yeah. It made me laugh. I sat there with a smile on my face all the way through Easter Parade.
Yeah, that's right.
All the way to the end.
We would drive up the avenue, but we haven't got the price. We would skate up the avenue, but there isn't any ice. We would ride on a bicycle, but we haven't got a bike. So we'll walk up the avenue, yes, we'll walk up the avenue, and to walk up the avenue's what we like.
What was a film that changed your life, Christopher? And I mean this either by watching it, and you had such a sort of visceral reaction to it, or by working on one, as you have done on so many.
Well, I suppose Dangerous Liaison really did change my life, because it was the first of the films. It was my 6th film as a writer, I think, but it was the one that kind of changed my life, really.
What, in terms of catapulting you to Hollywood?
Yes, and I think about it very, very affectionately, because it was an extremely happy experience, and we had a wonderful summer in Paris, and just everything went right.
Given that you'd done it so successfully on as a stage play, I guess there were there's as much room for error as there is for success in that. It could have all gone terribly wrong, given that you knew it so well.
Well, yes, but of course, one of the advantages was that Stephen Frears is not a man you will often catch in the theatre, so I didn't think he'd seen it as a play. And I was very anxious to make it into a proper film, because I sensed that the very early efforts I had, like Doll's House, or my second film, which was from a play called Tales from the Vienna Woods. Looking at them now, they do seem a bit stage bound. With Liaison, it was easier to go back to the novel, and I'd had to rearrange all the geography of the novel for to get everyone in the same room for the stage, and I was able to go much more back to the structure of the novel.
Yes.
So it's pretty different.
Yeah, well, it's just sumptuous to look at. What a cast as well. I mean, it was a great cast then, but it still remained. You know, Glenn Close is towering. Uma Thurman obviously goes on to be a great diva, and Keanu is still, you know, was a huge star even then, I think. So, you know, what a fantastic legacy.
Yes, no, we had all the actors were great. And Stephen was in his element because he was very thrilled to have Mildred Natwick in the cast, because his great hero as a director is John Ford, and she had worked with him a lot, so he was often to be found in a corner chatting to her about John Ford.
That's all he wanted.
Yeah, I cast John Malkovich and Glenn Close because we were in such a rush to get the film made, because Milos Forman down the road was in Burgundy, was making a different version, and we felt we had to be out first.
Yeah, and you managed, but you got the title because he had to call it Valmont.
Yes.
So you had the rights to. Is that how it goes? You have the rights to the. But I mean.
No rights at all. It's out of copyright.
It was written in 1762 or whatever it was.
Yeah, that's right.
Bastide's priority, you see, is a guaranteed virtue.
I wonder if I'm beginning to guess what it is you're intending to propose.
Bastide is with his regiment in Corsica for the rest of the year. That should give you plenty of time.
You mean to?
She's a rosebud.
You think so?
And he'd get back from his honeymoon to find himself the laughingstock of Paris.
Well...
Yes. Love and revenge. Two of your favorites.
So where were you filming? We had to. Our budget was quite constrained. Actually, it was quite constrained. $14 million. Actually, The Father was made for $5 million, but we could only choose locations that were within a drive of the center of Paris, so that people didn't have to move or be rehoused or whatever. We were in a absolute rush. I mean, it's a miracle that the film looks so wonderful. That's down to Stuart Craig and James Atchison, who did the costumes.
Wow, was that Stuart Craig, production designer? Right? Yeah, wow.
Yeah. And I think he had 10 weeks to design it. It was most impressive.
Yeah, it's a wonderful film. It's a film that saved my life because it came out just as I was studying the Aids and Dangerous as a novel for my Oxford exams, and I was a little bit sort of confused. I was a little bit unsure what was going on thematically, and I went to see your play, and then the film came out, and I was like, "Oh, it all clicked for me." So, had you studied it as a student as well?
Yeah, no, that's how I came across it. It was right. I read it in my first term at Oxford.
Yes, exactly the same with me. There you go. And I went with a girl who I fell very much in love with, actually, watching that film. To her, so it's all your fault. Although I'm not with her. What about a film that changed your life from actually watching? That had that.
I think when I was very, very young. I mean, quite unsuitably young. I spent the years from 5 to 10 in Alexandria in Egypt, and my father was really keen on the movies, and so we used to go 2 or 3 times a week, and they didn't have classification there at all, so we just went and saw whatever was on. And I suppose I must have been about 8 when I was taken to see East of Eden. I didn't really understand it all that much, but it had a really profound effect on me. I kind of became very interested in acting, I think.
Was it James Dean that you...
It was James Dean. Yeah, it was James Dean, but also Joe Van Fleet and Raymond Massey and so on. I suppose I was just riveted by it.
Have you seen it since, or you prefer to leave it?
Yes, I have several times. In fact, about 10 years ago, I wrote a screenplay for Universal based on East of Eden. When they first came to me, I said, "Are you insane? This is masterpiece." And then they said, "Have you read the book?" And of course, if you read the book, which is about a novel, which is about 600 pages, the stuff with James Dean and so on doesn't start till about page 450. So the novel is really about Joe Van Fleet and Raymond Massey and their backstory.
Yes, life in its every emotion leaps from the pages of John Steinbeck's best of all his bestsellers. And to bring new vitality to every explosive chapter, to capture for you the stark realism of people who love so deeply, hate so fiercely, live so recklessly. Warner Brothers had to seek out vibrant new personalities, tap new sources of talent, create new stars. James Dean as Cal, the wildest boy you've ever met. Julie Harris as Abra, the most outspoken girl you've ever known. Jo Van Fleet as Kate, the most wicked woman you've ever seen. And all the other memorable figures who form a dramatic cavalcade that moves across California's lustiest era and her most colorful locale.
How come you did it?
Did what?
Shot my father.
Because he tried to hold me. He tried to tie me down. Nobody holds me.
Did you watch any films for the father? Did you watch anything visual references?
I didn't know. But I do when I'm directing a film, which hasn't happened I've only done 3 films. I tend to look for and find a film that I watch a lot. At the weekends when I'm just to sort of. I mean, for example, Carrington, my first film.
Yeah, lovely film.
I wanted to. I mean, it's a very tragic story, but I wanted to keep it very light. And so the film I kept watching was Jules et Jim, which is one of the rare films that is a sort of tragedy, but it's very, very light. And the tone is very solemn.
Did you have a poster on your wall as a teenager, or as a student?
No, I didn't. I do now. I actually have an enormous poster of Carrington, from which Norma Hayman gave me as a present after Cannes, which is just a vast, photo of Jonathan Pryce and Emma Thompson.
Yeah, beautiful. But with the little official selection, I hope. Is it the French
poster?
Oh yeah,
no. Actually, with the 2 things about the prizes, we got 2 prizes, which was pretty.
Oh yeah,
nice.
Keep that one, and that's the only one you've got still.
Well, actually, I've got a huge poster of Anthony in The Good Father, but these are all sort of scattered around my office in London.
Yeah. Well, it's good to remind yourself that what you're writing sometimes has a sort of an end game, and it's up there. If I could give you the power of time travel, Christopher, and you could go back to any set, because it seems to me that you're a writer. Unusually for a writer, you actually go to quite a lot of sets yourself, which seems to be unusual. But you can go to any set, any director, any film being made, any day, either for the whole shoot or just for a day or a certain scene. Where would you go?
I think I'd really like to be on the set of Some Like It Hot, because I know that, first of all, the film is immensely enjoyable, but I know the thing about making comedies is that they're often very fraught and painful and anxiety inducing, and and of course, Marilyn Monroe couldn't remember her lines all the time, and I just think it would have been very, very interesting to be a fly on the wall. But I'd love to have been on one of Bunuel's sets, a Belle de Jour or something.
Yeah.
And have him, he had at the end of every shooting day, he made his own version of Negroni, which was called a Bunueloni.
Oh, what's in a Bunueloni?
I can't remember, actually. It's in Jean-Claude Carrier's book.
That's why they're so good, the Bunuelonis, because you can't remember what's in them.
You can't remember what else is in them.
Surreal cocktail.
But I just like the idea of, a director making everybody a cocktail at the end of the day.
It sounds very civilized, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, you would go to the French period of him rather than go off to Mexico or be at the dinner.
I don't think it would be very comfortable on the set of Los Olvidados.
Yeah, pick wisely. I could see you're someone who chooses a nice set to go to, Christopher. Have you ever fallen in love at the movies?
No, I don't think not as such. But I did. My first date with my wife Laura was at The Graduate. And we're still together, so I imagine.
Wow! You outlasted Ben and Elaine.
Indeed, we did, and that it was in the old days when Kensington Odeon was all one huge, lovely cinema.
Oh, yes. It was a giant, wasn't it? Now it's sort of in 3.
No, it's not there.
It's not even there, of course. Yeah,
yeah.
Oh, so that was your date. Well, that's not bad, is it then? Yeah.
What?
My husband will be back quite late. He should be gone for several hours.
Oh my God.
Pardon?
Oh no, Mrs. Robinson, oh no.
What's wrong?
Mrs. Robinson, you didn't expect...
What?
I mean, you didn't really think I'd do something like that.
Like what?
What do you think?
Well, I don't know.
For God's sake, Mrs. Robinson. Here we are. You got me into your house. You give me a drink. You put on music. Now you start opening up your personal life to me and tell me your husband won't be home for hours.
So?
Mrs. Robinson, you're trying to seduce me. Aren't you?
Well, no, I hadn't thought of it. I feel very flattered.
Mrs. Robinson, will you forgive me for what I just said?
It's all right.
It's not all right. It's the worst thing I ever said to anyone.
Sit down.
Please forgive me because I like you. I don't think of you that way, but I'm mixed up.
It's all right. Finish your drink.
Mrs. Robinson, it makes me sick that I said that to you.
Well, forget it right now. Finish your drink.
Who's your favourite screen hero?
I think Gérard Depardieu in Cyrano de Bergerac. I mean, he's so brilliant in it, and he's so touching, and the character is so sympathetic. Yeah,
it's a wonderful, wonderul performance. In fact, you're one of your ex collaborators, Joe Wright, who you made Atonement with. I think he's off. I think he's making a Cyrano. This is his next project.
Is that right?
Yes, I believe so.
Is this wise?
I don't know if it's a good idea. You need to find someone that can. Well, I mean, Roxanne, wasn't it, that Steve Martin did?
Yes, that was good. That was very enjoyable.
It was a lovely take on it, and you could not get more removed from the Depardieu Cyrano. So I suppose you can do things with it. What about a screen musical moment?
I just adore Fred Astaire.
Yeah.
Anything in Top Hat, or I can't remember what film it is. The one where he and Ginger sort of sail off the screen at the end.
Which one is that?
At the end,
I'm thinking of the one that they do cheek to cheek. That's in Purple Rose of Cairo.
Top Hat.
Yeah, it's Top Hat. Yeah, but that's in the garden. I don't know whether they sail away.
Yeah, they just disappear out of the side of the screen like Nijinsky, and it's really gorgeous.
Yeah, I mean, Easter Parade, he's amazing, and he's extraordinary. Extraordinary to watch, that fluidity, that ease.
I think he must have been. Well, I don't really know much about him. He strikes me as a very sort of modest figure, but he was just incomparable at what he did. I mean, and you could if you talk to Nureyev, he would have said Fred Astaire is wonderful.
Yeah, Michael Jackson used to say it. So it goes on, and no one's done Fred Astaire since. I don't the angle of the head, the sort of the seeming ease of the body. I'm sure he rehearsed an inch of his life, and if you got a step wrong, he probably shouted you out.
I think there was talk of feet bleeding. Yeah, of people who work with it.
Where's your favourite cinema?
Well, all those in Alexandria, all those cinemas were being built while I was there, and they built them in the late 40s and early 50s, and they were like sort of 2,000-seat Art Deco palaces, and very few of them are there now. There was one called the Amir that I remember particularly. It was just like, that was part of the enchantment of going to the cinema. Were that there were these huge cinemas, brand new. I mean, I think the Amir opened in 1952 with All About Eve. So,
and were you there for that one?
I might have been. I mean, I wasn't there for the opening, but I might have been. I might have gone to see All About Eve.
Fantastic! Wow. And what about the best screening? I mean, we're lucky. We go to some momentous screenings, and you've had several. Cannes, and you've been the Oscars, BAFTAs. I don't know, but is there a momentous screening that either one of your films or one that you've attended?
Well, I think the first screening of Carrington anywhere, because was one of those things where they accepted the film and there was a tremendous rush to get it finished. And the first screening was in the Palais du Cinema in Cannes, and I don't think I've ever been so terrified in my life.
So you did the red carpet?
Yeah, I sat down in my dinner jacket and I thought, this is insane. There's 3,000 people here, and it's my first film. And then they always had a short before every film. At Cannes, they would often. You probably don't get that in the journalist screenings, but they do a 5-minute short or something like that. During the 5-minute short, the film broke. So then another further 10 minutes of terror while everything was repaired.
God.
And then there was a standing ovation at the end. It was an amazing evening.
Could you read the room during it? Did you know?
Yeah, I could. People were laughing, and
Well,
that's always a good sign.
Although it's not a comedy as such, but
no, but there's some funny lines.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope they were crying a bit too. It's got some emotion.
Yes.
Yeah, so you never know if you're gonna. Did they like it? And then you get this, this 15-minute standing ovation. Do you? I mean, I've never asked anyone, but do you know what the hell to do while that's happening? I mean, you must have this rictus grin on your face, so I don't know what to do during those.
I know that my third film, which was at Venice, which is called Imagining Argentina, which is also with Emma Thompson, and which was not well received, but nevertheless, at the screening at Venice, there was like a 10-minute standing ovation, and I remember Emma about sort of 6 minutes in saying to me, "For God's sake, let's get out of here." I mean, we sort of, because and it's quite right. In the end, there's a limit to the facial expressions you can deploy. So we actually slipped away.
And they're still going. They're still clapping. So damn it, stop.
Probably very, very uncivil, but anyway,
we did 7 minutes of it. It's a lovely memory. What's the favourite film location that sticks in your mind, either that you filmed in or that you've seen on screen and thought, wow?
Well, I love Venice, and as it so happened, the very first day of my shooting of my first film, which was Carrington, we shot for I think 2 or 3 days in Venice. So I actually started my career as a director by lying in the bottom of a gondola, shouting "Azione." But in Don't Look Now, for example, Venice is so brilliantly used. Or,
was that a template for Carrington? I mean, every time you use Venice, it's sort of
not
sort of haunts it.
It was just
different atmosphere.
No, not really. It was a different atmosphere. So, but I wanted. I found one of those very sort of twisty back canals, and it's only in the film for a couple of minutes, but that's where I started.
Yeah. Do you go back to Venice often? I mean, not just for the film festival. Do you go and go there for inspiration?
I haven't been for quite a while now. I'd love to get back to Italy. Anywhere in Italy is good for me. I've always loved Italy.
Probably Venice won't let you back in. It's that bloke that sneaked out of the screening. We were giving him a standing ovation, and he buggered off with Emma Thompson for dinner.
I don't. Yeah, but there was also I think it was booed in the press screening.
It was booed in the press screening. I was there. It wasn't me booing, as it happens. I have to tell you.
No, another reason not to go back.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, not a sour note on which to end, because I don't think the father's got
No, because actually, Atonement opened the Venice Film Festival.
It did.
So I did. I went back for that.
Yeah, that was a wonderful night. I was there with Joe and Rosamund at the time, and then got the boat over back to the hotel and the cast. That went down an absolute storm. I mean, that really did. And still a gorgeous film. Yeah, the Atonement. Yeah. So were you there on the beach? Talking of going to locations, were you there on the? I know you visit sets. Were you there on the beach when Joe Wright did that?
That was astonishing. Yes, although I wasn't on the set much for Atonement, because I sensed very early on that Joe would rather, would just assume I wasn't. But I did want to go. I was there in the scenes with Jeremy Renier because I can speak French, and was therefore useful. But I wanted to see that amazing Peter Robertson, the Steadicam guy.
Yeah, was that in the script? Was that in your script? I mean, you can't write a scene like that.
Well, actually, it's a really good illustration of necessity being the mother of invention, because quite sort of more or less at the beginning of pre-production, we were told to take $5 million out of the budget. And so we kind of thought that would probably sensibly fall on the section where the soldiers marched through France and all the way to Dunkirk. So what we did was we took 3 or 4 of these sort of incidents that were in the script that happened on the way, and put them all into one big sequence, because Joe very sensibly said, well, we need to get 1,500 extras, but we'll only need them for 2 days, or 1 day, or whatever. Yes, 2 days, I think. And if we get everything into that one shot, it did save a colossal amount of money doing it that way. it's sort of unforgettable sequence.
Shot of the century, I believe. Seamus was given for that. I think he's well. When they dole these things out, yeah, I think so. Absolutely. Well, it was nominated for and nearly got there. So, yeah, congratulations on that. Look, I can't wait for everyone to see The Father. But we've still got the mother and the mother to come. Is that next, or the son? Le Fils is next.
The son actually started pre-production today.
Oh, congratulations! Wait, you're not there?
No. It's pre-production is folks talking about money, I think. Oh, I have got work to do still, and we start shooting. We start shooting the middle of August.
And you're going to visit that set?
I am. I'm going to, because in fact we're going to be shooting. Although it's set in New York and Washington, the bulk of the shooting is going to be done here in England.
Oh, brilliant! And this is with Hugh Jackman and Laura Dern, isn't it?
Yeah, Laura Dern, Vanessa Kirby, and a very small part for Anthony Hopkins.
Ah. Very well. He owes you a favour, I suppose. How fantastic! And then is there plans for the mother as well? That
we haven't talked about that yet.
Okay.
It's, in fact, actually, the mother is the earliest of the three. I know that Isabelle Huppert is very, very keen to do it because she's done it on stage, and so having done the father in England and the son notionally in America. Maybe we'll do the mother in France, or maybe maybe it'll be a French film.
Why not? Or maybe
but I think they should definitely make it because I think that there's a sort of thematic kinship between
with Isabelle Huppert. You never know. I mean, she'll be filming in Korea with Aung San Suu, and then she'll come back. If you saw that episode of Call My Agent with her, you'll know that she doesn't stop that one. So
she likes to wear it.
Yeah,
likes to wear it.
Well, we all do.
Yeah, we all do. But she's astonishing.
Yeah. Well, look, the best of luck. I can't wait to see that. I can't wait to see the results of the father as well. And how that does at the box office. I'm really hoping that people go back to the cinema to see it because I think it's a real big screen thing. Even though it's, as you say, interior. And Anthony and Olivia are just extraordinary in it. And thanks very much for joining me on Seen Any Good Films lately, Christopher. You've been a great guest.
Thank you, Jason.
What a great guest Christopher Hampton was. Fond memories from a brilliant film career there. So many recommendations in it too. From Easter Parade and East of Eden to the New Dock State Funeral and news of his latest adaptations in the pipeline. That's all you get on Seen Any Good Films Lately. And the big interview on Seen Any Good Films Lately is supported by Strike. All the spirit, none of the alcohol. And right now, they're available for summer refreshment in cans. You can get your pre-mixed Strike not rum and cola or not gin and tonic and take them with you for nights watching movies under the stars. Just go to strike.com, that's STRYKK.com, to find out some of my top tips for outdoor movie going. Take a cushion and a jumper. They're among them. And to get 40% off your order when you enter the code JASON40. Cheers, Strike. That's about it for this show. Although I must tell you about In the Heights, which I was off to see, wasn't I, at the end of last week's podcast. So yeah, I went with my family, my wife and kids. Got great seats at the Picture House Central. There was popcorn and apple juice, the works. We had it all. And it was fun. It was really good fun, actually. This film is the new one from Lin-Manuel Miranda, who did Hamilton. And it's about Anthony Ramos's Usnavi, who runs a bodega corner shop in Washington Heights, right at the top of Manhattan there. It's about the Latino community there, past and present, about gentrification, roots, and longing for home, wherever that may be. And it's all put across in big dance numbers, some out on the streets, or in a swimming pool, or in a nail salon, or even on the side of a building. The choreography is as witty as the rapped lyrics, especially when there's a lucky lottery ticket sold to someone in the neighbourhood awaiting collection at the El Sueñito Bodega.
96,000.
Damn.
96,000.
Dollars? Allah.
96,000.
That's a lot of spray cans.
96,000.
Yo, if I won the lotto tomorrow, well, I know I wouldn't bother going on no spending spree. I pick a business school and pay the entrance fee. And maybe if you're lucky, you'll stay friends with me. I'll be a businessman richer than Nina's daddy. Tiger Woods and I on the links and he's my caddy. My money's making money. I'm going from po to modo. Keep the bling. I want the brass ring like Frodo. Here goes
Mr. Braggadocio. Next thing you know, you're lying like Pinocchio.
Yo, if you scared of the bull, stay out the rodeo.
Yo, I got more flows than Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah, 96,000. I could do with that. I enjoyed In the Heights. It's very sentimental and sweet, and there's a lack of momentum and drama. Ironically, after there's a big power cut scene, it's slightly underpowered and drags itself a bit towards the end. But nevertheless, Anthony Ramos is hugely likeable all the way through, and the girls, played by Melissa Barrera as Vanessa, and Leslie Grace as Nina, and Corey Hawkins as Benny, they're all really attractive to watch and listen to, and I liked many of the songs which introduce us to all the characters. It's a bit like Oliver's Who Will Buy scene and the West Side Story Tonight medley, all rolled into one and set to that Discarga beat. It should be a big, long, hot musical for a long, hot summer. So, Jason's 3 to see. The top recommendation stemming from this episode, I'm going to go for Mandabi, absolutely. State Funeral, as recommended by Christopher Hampton. And out of his memories, let's go for East of Eden. Why not? But Dangerous Liaisons, that's always worth revisiting too. Thanks to Christopher Hampton. Thanks, Strike, for the cool drinks. So let's do like they do in the Heights when it's hot and drink a long, cool piragua. Adios.
Hey, good morning.
Ice cold piragua, palcha, china, cherry, strawberry, and just for today, I got my mate.
Oye, piragüero, ¿cómo está?
Como siempre, señor Usnavi.
I am Usnavi, and you probably never heard my name. Reports of my fame are greatly exaggerated, exacerbated by the fact that my syntax is highly complicated, cause I immigrated from the single greatest little place in the Caribbean, Dominican Republic. I love it. Jesus, I'm jealous of it, and beyond that, ever since my folks passed on, I haven't gone back. God damn, I gotta get on that.